Good morning. Welcome to our first construction technology webinar on the topic of leveraging technology to create project certainty. We hope that you find this information valuable, or at least let it pique your interest in how it can help your projects and provide useful data to help make your job easier. Before we get started, there's a few housekeeping notes here. So just for your information, we will be recording this webinar and posting it online shortly. Secondly, please ask questions. If you have a question during the presentation, please feel free to enter it in the chat or Q&A panels, and we'll answer them at the end of the presentation during our Q&A time. And then finally, the legal part, all images in media are presented in here are by Riley Construction, unless noted otherwise. We will be sharing some content from technology companies as examples. Other than that, everything you see here has been produced by our team here at Riley. So go ahead and get started here. So first, a little bit about us. For those of you who may not know Riley as of yet, we are a family-owned and operated construction management and general contractor headquartered out of Kenosha, Wisconsin. We have additional offices outside of Milwaukee and also in Waukegan, Illinois, and we have plans for some additional regional growth on the horizon as well. Riley has grown in part due to our focus on people and relationships, and we operate under the idea that we're large enough to serve you, but small enough to actually know you. Our clients know that, and we're proud of that fact that we can build the most complex of buildings, but without that operational complexity of a larger national firm. Just to give you all an idea of our normal area of operation, we have built throughout the greater Milwaukee and Chicago areas, essentially the I-94 corridor, for those of you familiar with the area. We've also built outside of this region for a few of our clients as well. So we've ventured into Ohio, Georgia, and most recently into Mississippi. Again, kind of what we provide at Riley, we operate as a full-scale construction management firm. We offer services from pre-construction and estimating through design, build, operations, and select self-performed trades. Part of the benefit of operating the way we do and at the scale that we do, that we position ourselves this way, is that we're able to remain flexible as building owners and clients need us to be in how we deliver their projects, and whether that be operational or schedule driven. The flexibility is a key component to how we operate. And then finally, a little bit about myself. My name is Kendellen. I've been in the role of construction technology manager at Riley for 5 years now. I've been working within the AEC industry and ConTech specifically for 20 years. And prior to Riley, I've had the opportunity to dabble in all sides of that industry. Ranging from architecture to construction, a little bit on the owner side and a little bit on the software side as well. Here at Riley, my focus is really on improving those deliverables and processes by leveraging technology. And my real passion for ConTech resides with the idea that, number one, there's always a better way to do something, and two, change is inevitable. So let's make the most of it. So why does technology matter to us in construction, and more importantly, to project owners and developers? Our focus within the Riley Construction Technology Group is to leverage changing technology to adapt to that real project level application. As we all know, construction is a really old industry, and it's changing, and projects are getting more and more complex, and data is playing a larger role in how decisions are made. We really pride ourselves on both having that expertise to apply technology in the right manner for a project, and having that personal understanding of our project's customer needs as well. At Riley, our strategy for implementing technology focuses on tools and processes that can make our projects and people more efficient. We've developed a culture of process-based and purposeful innovation that really scales with the pace of industry within the pace of innovation within the industry. From our view, it's important to understand that impact that specific technology actually has to our core business practice, though. And we look at new technology and ideas through the lens of knowing that just because we can doesn't mean we should, meaning that we focus on that value-added technology versus the shiny object in the room. While, however, we are actually absolutely keeping an eye on groundbreaking new tech and taking some of those chances early on through early adoption when it meets our goals. We are looking at keeping our tech stack simple, though, and integrating it with a focus on the end user and those interfaces that they are involved with. A little bit of a history lesson to kind of get started here on technology. So the driver of modern construction technology, really the evolution is building information modeling, or BIM. BIM had existed as a concept since the early 1990s, but it really wasn't until the 2000s that the industry began to adopt those 3D-based tools for producing designs and project documentation. So the use of these building models was very much focused on those visual aspects. You know, the low-hanging fruit at the time was the clash detection process. So for those of you experienced enough to remember the days of using light tables for overlaying drawings, these tools provided that digitized process for coordinating projects. The early 3D visuals combined with those additional digital processes derived from that software, or what was available at the time, became part of virtual design and construction, so VDC efforts, and that's really where the industry is driving today along those tools. So around 2007, the AEC industry kind of started shifting towards more of that true BIM concept. So where more design firms began utilizing 3D-based systems, but they also contained additional data on the back end and allowed for that seamless integration with their contract and construction documentation. So construction managers and contractors also began to pick up more on those benefits as well. They were utilizing these tools more oftentimes, pushing the design team for more digitized workflows as well. While Riley was not an early adopter, we began to integrate 3D modeling into our project planning and visualization back in 2010, and it remains a core data generation component as well as a deliverable on our projects to this day. As the technology has evolved even faster over the last 5 years, we've begun to refocus our efforts on the tech that drives results versus relying solely on that visual heavy component that BIM and VDC offer. We began to look at the what else, what was beyond those 3D-based tools that existed. And although they still remain that standard again, and an area of expertise within our ConTech department. However, this step actually focused on utilizing that data behind the model and making that data consumable and collaborative for our project teams. We began to look for those measurable results from these tech-based systems and began to tweak our own internal processes to adjust to the new offerings that these platforms provided. If we fast forward now to our current state, where we know what we want out of our tech stack. So now we're looking for tools and process changes that address specific areas, identified areas for improvement. Tools that allow us to build more with a more lean mindset and to avoid those surprises on our projects. We're looking for that certainty, less waste, installations done right the first time. And there's now this expanded toolbox of tech that we can use to make those items happen. As I mentioned earlier, construction is an old industry, and many of the on-site processes that we utilize or ways that we operate from an organizational standpoint would be very recognizable to a construction professional from 50 years ago. However, it's been well documented that we are in an industry itself that's poised for change and disruption, and this has certainly picked up over the last few years. There's now a record outside investment into ConTech platforms and software, and an industry sentiment that as an industry, we've pushed through 3 years of innovation and development within the course of the COVID-19 pandemic, just out of pure necessity. So 3 years of progress within essentially one calendar year, which has provided a ton of new tools for us to evaluate as an organization. So with these new innovations come new challenges. And from our perspective, as noted earlier in regards to the how, the when, and the why we at Riley implement new tech, there are still plenty of those shiny objects out there that keep us looking ahead. So we'll show a couple of these examples next, but these are the areas that we're closely watching for our own growth. On the data side, we're going to see a lot more artificial intelligence, AI, used more and more as a basis of decision-making and analytics. It will be able to allow our project teams to generate building designs, cost data, and project scopes faster than ever before, based on the data from different sources. Earthwork, for example, one of those trades that doesn't get a whole lot of love, is actually one of the more advanced tech use cases out there now. Heavy equipment is completely data and geolocation driven. down to fractions of an inch. So where does that data come from? Well, it comes from the building model itself, which is now a lot more than just the drawing or 3D model for coordination. Safety, obviously our main goal as a CMGC is safety. And we're seeing the use of wearables and tool performance tracking, safety hazard recognition, and through AI actually come to fruition. And then finally, new materials. As we're getting closer to real application with these, we've seen houses that can be printed out 3D concrete, and we're looking to see how that technology itself can actually be applied to larger scales or different construction types, especially within the commercial realm. So a few videos, a few glimpses of what we're tracking for future use here. So while these technologies do exist today, again, we take the approach within the framework of the process-based value and purposeful innovation, where these technologies need to make sense for that specific project or customer or one of our own internal improvement cases. So here in the upper left, we have generative design. So we're using data and AI platforms to configure buildings and optimize those sites based on a set of parameters. These models are created based on multiple data sets and that can pull in and actually optimize that project, optimize that building in the early stages through multiple options generated very quickly. In the upper right here, we have Spot. Spot is a robot designed, built by Boston Dynamics, and it can be utilized for job site monitoring, laser scanning, or even confined space inspections. You'll see here in the video, he's armed with a claw that can actually move objects out of the way as well. So this has been a fascinating one to observe over the last few years as well, and really kind of see where Spot puts robotics into construction. In the bottom left, we have AI-based safety issue identification. So the system here can identify and detect equipment, personnel, and other site conditions, as well as flag potential issues automatically. This is based on the data and intelligence behind the software within the platform itself, and fed through a construction camera. So the software in the back end is actually identifying these areas for safety concerns, and we can flag those and put those into our project management platform quickly. And then finally, on the bottom right, 3D printing with concrete. This example is from a company called Icon, and it shows their prototype 3D printed home. We're continuing to look at ways that this can be applied in a commercial project setting, but it's a fascinating use of large-scale 3D printing in its own right. So while all the cutting edge tech is really exciting, it really brings the cool factor. It's one of the best parts of my job is we get to look at this kind of stuff. But it does offer strategic opportunities for the company. But the on-site efforts provided at the project level prove that ingenuity and flexibility still reign supreme. So understanding how our teams can utilize these tools is really the bread and butter of what we do as construction technologists. So software that offers that fast feedback, those constructability reviews, those quick visual checks is becoming more democratized amongst the project team members. So it's no longer the VDC engineer who holds all the cards for accessing the data or the visuals. Integrating these digital tools further in the project, we're now able to kind of push this out to the rest of the project team and the stakeholders within the project as well. Teams are able to access this data though. And to my previous slide here, this data is contained in our schedules and building models, and we're able to utilize these what-if scenarios to align visuals with cost data. What these tools provide our projects is that increased understanding of scope, design, and intent. They provide every stakeholder the certainty of what that final product will be, and the collaboration arena to operate within and with the detail provided. So any surprises are eliminated. Real-time, high-end visualization continues to offer teams more and more certainty when it comes to design and building. So these use conditions, the what you see is what you get mentality with our projects. So our partners have the ability to understand down to finite details of how their building will appear and function, and allow us to coordinate to specific end user needs, starting very early in the pre-construction phase. So keeping on the topic of certainty and to ensure that we are using the right tool for the job, we rely heavily on capturing accurate as-built data before construction begins. This goes on to all of our renovation projects, but also we look at ways to capture the 3D point information during construction as well, to assist in the fabrication and field condition documentation. This example here shows a use of a laser scanning to identify floor flatness of an existing building that we were renovating for a different use. Being able to identify these issues, talk through those with the design team early on and plan ahead is a game changer for us. So reality capture tools such as laser scanners and drones, those really allow us to generate 3D as-built information to a high accuracy level in a very short time frame. These tools can pull in those as-built conditions even within a tight space to ensure that we know every nook and cranny of that space and have the ability to design and build within those parameters. So the next example here, this example of our scanning tools in use on one of our projects. The scanner itself is extremely mobile and functions directly through the software app on the iPad. This 3D data can be reviewed in the field for quality and then imported directly into our models for use. This provides our teams that baseline for the as-built models and really being able to design and coordinate new systems with that level of certainty and detail that's required for complex buildings. However, we'll rarely go out and scan an entire project unless absolutely necessary. This goes back to using the right tool for the job and using value-added technology. We'll almost be surgical in how we approach and how we utilize these scanners, applying them to specific locations that make the most amount of sense and based on deliverable information required at the end. So whether it's for design and coordination purposes or in an existing space, capturing a specific piece of equipment for use in a new building, or documenting, example, in-slab conditions for as-built data, reality capture's use continues to grow and is yet another data point for project teams to utilize. But data does mean different things to different stakeholders, and it's a huge topic across the industry right now. As a building owner, you have a say in which data you receive throughout the project and how you receive it. With a bit of planning, we can generate the right building information in the right format and at the right time. And every aspect of the project generates information. So what needs to be disseminated and documented during construction is data. And we utilize this data to better understand where resources need to be allocated during the project. We ensure schedules are maintained. And even with everyone's current favorite topic of the supply chain, how we keep materials flowing to our projects as well. After construction, a lot of that project generated data will not matter a whole lot to the facility operators, but there's still a lot of information generated by the construction process itself that can easily feed into that operational phase. It's never too early to start thinking about the lifespan of the building and what information you want once we turn over the keys. Making the startup of your building even easier to manage and to know that you have that information at hand in the format that works for you. So at Riley, we embrace a lean mindset when it comes to technology. We utilize a system titled InStep that guides our teams in aspects such as planning, production, and accountability. And we utilize that collaborative platform to share project constraints, assignments, schedules, and more with all the project stakeholders. So this allows our teams to operate much more efficiently. More efficient means of communication and often smaller overall project teams, eliminating waste from the processes through those automated means. So our experience in utilizing our array of ConTech offerings allows us to provide benefits to our projects by means of ensuring that the project meets or exceeds its intended goals. And from a design and operations standpoint, we can actually limit the amount of time and cost of being on site. So we're shifting our planning more towards the front end, which allows us to spend that less time on site through the use of some of these digital planning tools. And then finally, we can provide your data your way and when you as an owner need it. This area kind of goes overlooked very often, but those early planning stages are key in ways that we can identify and set up projects to actually generate this data as needed throughout the building of the project and throughout the operation phase as well. So tech can actually make construction fun. That's part of my passion with it. That's part of why I enjoy what I do here at Riley. In addition to making your job easier, we provide our clients that comfort level and that project understanding amongst all that are involved. So that partnership and collaboration within our tech-based processes yields benefits throughout the project. We're as a team, as a group of stakeholders, we're not in this alone, and we all want to realize that project success. And technology is really proving to be a key component of that and how it's applied throughout the project. Again, I'd like to thank everybody for attending. Please feel free to reach out, though, with any of those specific questions that you may have, or if you'd like any additional information on any of those topics or use cases that you saw today. This is really a game-changing focus of the construction industry itself.